It's week 10. It's week 10 of the NFL season. It's week 10 of the fantasy football season. We got a couple of games left to decide if you're going to make the playoffs or not. So there's no more waiting to see. I need to find a trend, how they're going to be used when this player is back, this player's in, this player's out. Damn it, we have to make bets right now. We got the best tool in the game to help us make those bets. We're just getting right to it. I don't want to play around. We're not going to get cute. We're pulling up these teams. We're looking at opportunity, usage, and trying to figure out which one of these situations is going to help us bring home that fantasy championship here in the next couple of weeks. I'm glad you tapped in. I appreciate you being here. If it's your first time on the channel, if you stick around to the end of the video and you find the information actionable and or entertaining, hit that thumbs up button, like the content, but most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Helps your boy grow. I need you folks out there, you 20-something percenters that are watching and not sub, just hit that subscribe button. Do your boy a great deal of help. Wide receivers, opportunity, usage, utilization. Follow the dots. Trust the Trinity. Let's get it. Here we go. We are on thefantasyfootball.com, and we have the Trinity tracker pulled up on the screen. You can check the link in the description. If you want to try this thing out, get 50% off for the first month. But here it is. You got to follow the dots and trust it. This is all through for the whole season. Let's just segment this thing down to week 9 and look at our performers, our overperformers, our underperformers, and zone in on some players and some situations that we want to see. Here we go. Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. Monster week. No DK Metcalf. He went nuclear. 9.62 usage score, 37 fantasy points. You got Darnell Mooney, 9.69 usage score, 19 fantasy points. So you just see the gap, right? Similar usage, but when all the stars align and you've got a player who's being used a ton and everything hits, you know, you get this sort of outlier spike in production. And one of the cool things about the tool, when you break this thing down in segments, I think it's really important to look at look at the year in time periods and time frames. So this was weeks 1 through 4 of the NFL season. And remember what was going on early. You know, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins, just going crazy. Look at these guys. A.J. Brown at the top. He's still at the top. But look at the distribution. Just look at the dots. Look at the dots, and you've got a couple of players way far away from the trend line. And, you know, if you dabble in the stock market, that price always comes back to the mean. Things always revert back to the mean. And when you look at what's happened from weeks 1 through 4, and then you segment that, you know, for the entirety of the season, weeks 1 through 9, watch the dots tighten up and that distribution start to normalize. Watch this. Boom. You know, a lot tighter right there. Those Jeffersons coming down, Neighbors getting closer to the mean. Nico Collins is still up because it doesn't adjust for when you're out, but you see things starting to tighten up. And when you look at it in another segmented window, weeks 5 through 9, as defenses are getting acclimated, as wide receivers are going up, you see the flip-flop. And this is why I talk about this bottom right zone down here, folks. This bottom right zone with these players, the A.J. Browns, the McBrides, these zones down here, these are your opportunity buy windows. Look at what happens. Let's go back to weeks 1 through 4 and look at who's down here. You know, first 4 weeks of the season, Ladd McConkey's getting used, but the points aren't following. George Pickens getting used, but the points aren't following. Cortland Sutton getting used, but the points aren't following. T. Higgins, the list goes on and on and on. Look at all these names below the trend line, below where they should just be average scoring based on the type of usage that they get. And then when you flip that segment, right, when you take a look at what was happening the first 4 weeks of the season and you factor in the next couple of games, look at the flip. Ladd McConkey much tighter and closer. Why is that? Justin Herbert's throwing the ball more. It's being more efficient. Look at this. T. Higgins was down here below the line. Now here he is. You trust that usage, the fantasy points will follow. You've got Chris Godwin still up there. I know Cortland Sutton is around here somewhere. Where you at, Sutton? Sutton's still down there, but you see the flip for the players that were being utilized and it just not happening. This is why you trust the Trinity. You follow the dots and you bet on that usage. And when a situation change happens, and in George Pickens' case, we'll just go weeks 8 and weeks 9. And I know it's a small sample size, but you know, you want to see Pickens moving up. There's Van Jefferson. There's George Pickens right there with Russell Wilson at play. And I think Russ has been in weeks 8, 9 or 7, 8, 9 for Russ. Let's go back to 7 to get Pickens' big week in there. Let's go 7, 8, 9 because they were out a week. So it's really 7 and 8. And there's Pickens, right? His situation and environment flipped. And from him being habitually down here in that sort of buy opportunity zone, here he is above the trend line, still great usage, and he's producing for us for fantasy because of Russell Wilson. So just a quick little go through of the tool and how things adjust and change throughout the season and why you have to follow the dots. But let's start with Seattle because this is the situation, folks. Like, this is the one where I'm like, what do we do? What do we do? In week 9, it was all JSN, nobody else. Tyler Lockett still got you 15 points, but look at the usage gap between JSN and Lockett. And inside this score, it's taking the best of all that dope shit. Downfield work. JSN's been getting targeted. JSN's been getting peppered with targets. This has happened. The difference and why I continue to say empty calories, throw the damn ball to him down the field. He's good down the field. Shane Waldron in the Seattle Seahawks, give him air yards. I understand the DK Metcalf, his size, his speed, his athleticism. When you put the ball in his hands, he can do some crazy things. But so can Jackson Smith-Njigba, and we saw that play out in week 9. The downfield work, how good he is at creating separation. He left about 50, 60 yards on the field, called back due to penalties. He scored on back-to-back plays even though they took one of them away. Incredible talent. How does this thing look when DK Metcalf comes back? I've got no damn clue. Trade deadline today, they were saying DK Metcalf potentially was involved, but the Seahawks came out, nope, he's staying put. And you just look at the entirety of the season, weeks 1 through 9, and here it is. It's just tight, and DK Metcalf at 7, Jackson Smith-Njigba 5, Tyler Lockett at 5, but JSN giving you almost 4 more fantasy points per game than Tyler Lockett. And let's break this thing down and go weeks 5 through 9. We got to segment this thing a little more, and you see JSN is the one who is exceeding expectation when he's getting targeted. When the Seattle Seahawks are throwing the ball to JSN, not only is he giving you what he should, he's producing more. He's producing higher than expected. So let's continue to prioritize Jackson Smith-Njigba, Shane Waldron. If we tighten this up week 6 through 9, it just gets better and better and better for JSN. But the problem is not JSN, it's DK Metcalf. So what's the bet that we're willing to make? He went for 180 and 2 touchdowns. Could have 200 plus yards. The bet that I'm making is the trend and the way that he is used and the success that the Seahawks have when he's used. It doesn't matter the time frame you post it at. Continue to throw the ball to Jackson Smith-Njigba. I'm not here to discuss his long-term dynasty value or what he's going to become at the end of this season or moving forward or top this, top that. This is an offense that they are going to throw the shit out of the ball. Geno Smith has been doing it all year, and I'm going to continue to believe and prioritize Jackson Smith-Njigba in this offense. Tyler Lockett just looks like he's taking a step back in this offense, and that's what we want. I do believe that Geno Smith is good enough to support both JSN and DK Metcalf. The dots seem to track. Trust the Trinity. JSN, it's week 10. I'm in. Keep throwing him the damn ball. Shane Waldron. Let's take a look at Baltimore, another spot we were a little curious about, and there was no Deontay, so not a lot to take away from this one. Lamar Jackson only threw the ball 19 times, but Zay Flowers is off the chart. 9.1, 29 fantasy points for Zay Flowers, 5 for 127, 2 touchdowns. The yak was crazy. Nobody else did anything. This is Baltimore. This is the fear. Very rarely are you going to have games where 2, 3, 4 guys are up here from the pass catcher standpoint that just blew it up. I think Deontay Johnson is going to factor into this offense as the Baltimore Ravens move down the stretch of the season and inevitably go into the playoffs. From a fantasy standpoint, I don't think he hurts Zay. I don't really believe he hurts Bateman. I just think he's going to be a piece that's involved and get more integrated into the offense. But I don't know how damning this is from a fantasy perspective for Zay or Rashad Bateman. Neither of the two. And Zay Flowers, his last, let's just go back from week 6 to week 9. I mean, he's producing 6.82 score, 18 fantasy points per game. We tighten that up to the last 3 games, week 7, 8, and 9. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, and the new Deontay Johnson. He'll he'll factor in somewhere. But it is still Zay. And when Zay is getting the rock, Zay is performing. Zay's a beast. He really does look like and play like. He's not producing like this player, but he looks like, he feels like AB Light when he's out there. It's just quick twitch ability, what he can do after the catch, strong at the catch point. He can run every route. Zay Flowers, a really good player, really fun player. One of the failures on week 9, and I cautioned everybody against this one, but here we go. Jalen Coker in week 9. Jalen Coker in week 9 was the 4th most prioritized wide receiver of the Carolina pass catchers. He scored the third most PPR points, 5.6. David Moore dropped a beautiful pass that Bryce Young put right in the breadbasket, which would have scored and propelled him up. But Xavier Legette had a touchdown, and Jatavian Sanders, another performance from this young tight end that just continues to make me say bye, JT Sanders. 7.94 usage score, Trinity Score, giving you 12 points per game. Remember what we talked about at the beginning of the show, when you're seeing people in this buy zone range where the usage is consistently there, the points aren't materializing, I bet on those situations. What do you really want to do with Carolina? It's like I talked about with Coker. The environment is not good. Bryce Young is playing better ball, but it's still not a great pass-catching offense to bet on. So they're still going to throw the ball to Xavier Legette. He was the first-round pick. JT Sanders, he was a 4th-round pick. They're going to try to figure out what they have in these young guys. I like Jalen Coker, and I was on a show on Bleacher Report today with James Palmer, who said the Carolina Panthers love Jalen Coker as one of their building blocks of the future, but a consistent, startable fantasy football asset right now, hell to the no. I mean, you don't want to play those games, and some of us did that last week, and we were burned. I do think that long-term, there's something there. Can he be a viable number 2 option in this offense for whomever the quarterback is going to be? I do believe that is going to be the case. And will he have some big performances before the end of the season? Hell yeah, probably. I mean, it's just David Moore and Xavier Legette out there. I'm sure he will have some days, but a consistent starter cannot do it, will not do it, and would not recommend you do it either. Stash him, play him if you're desperate. I want Jatavian Sanders. JT Sanders is a buy. I'm telling you right now, and I told y'all last week. I told you, go look at the video. I told you last week, Rome Odunze. We pulled up the rookies, and I said I liked the way Rome Odunze was tracking. And here in week 9, Rome Odunze, 7.84 score, 15 fantasy points, over 100 yards. The Bears' offense looked dreadful. Caleb Williams he was beaten to shit. He was absolutely killed. Keenan Allen looked like a shell of himself, and he led the way in targets. Why are they continuing to throw the damn ball to Keenan Allen? Nothing from Cole Kmet. The Cardinals ran the ball down the Bears' throat. DJ Moore's on radio shows talking about he doesn't know if Eberflus has lost the locker room or not. Here's what I do know. Bye, Rome Odunze. I don't know if you can make it happen now. It wasn't a monster performance, but you just look at where they are. It's not a good environment either. You know, they're all tight, but Odunze is inside that trackable range that I want that young player tethered to this young quarterback, despite the fact that he's not producing to the level of his wide receiver output should yield. And part of that is the offense. Part of that is the quarterback. Bigger part of that is Keenan Allen on the damn field. And we kind of looked at those time frames when Keenan Allen was not on the field and how good Rome Odunze was during that time period. Get him off the field. I don't get this one. I don't know what's going on. You look at week 6, 7, 8, and 9. I believe there was a bye week in there for Chicago. It's Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze leading the way in usage. Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze leading the way in usage, with DJ Moore a distant third. This has been a shit season for DJ Moore. Overall, this has not been a good fantasy season from a player who performed damn good with Justin Fields last year. Moore giving us 11 points per game, 6.22 score. It's a far cry from the DJ Moore that we had in Buffalo last year. We knew that there would be growing pains with the young quarterback. My goodness. This is an offense that's got to figure it out and get it together. But Rome Odunze is a player in that zone where I'm like, bye. Please, Odunze, go get him. Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. A lot of people ask about Miami. Ray, I want to see those Dolphins, that Dolphins Trinity with Tua. Tua's been back for a couple of weeks now with 2 games, week 8 and week 9 for Tua. Here's how it looks. Pathetic right now. Tua's still figuring out. Jalen Waddle scored a touchdown, was so mad, couldn't even do his Waddle dance. 4.38 score, 8 fantasy points per game. Jonnu Smith, second up in usage, 5.22 score, 7.8 points per game, far below the trend line. And then Tyreek Hill, 12 a game, 8.21 score, so still great usage amongst his team, but the fantasy points are just not, it's not there. And you look at the entire season, this is the environment. There are no other options. It's Tyreek, it's a little bit of Waddle, and a little bit of Jalen and Jonnu Smith. And this is just a far cry. Let's go to 2023 and just let's go back and think of happier times. This is what we were looking like last year. I mean, Tyreek through 9 games, 8.5 score, 25 points per game. Waddle close to a 7, 14 points per game. It's a far cry from last season. And does it get better? I sure hope so. I sure hope Tua and Tyreek and Tua and Waddle start to form some sort of connection. But I'm not holding my breath. I'm not holding my breath. What's the bet that y'all want to make? We talk about trusting and buying into usage and opportunity. Is Tyreek Hill the bet you're willing to make? I'm sure, unlike this point last season when he was unobtainable because he was scoring you 25 points per game, probably a good chance you can go out there and get you a deal for Tyreek Hill done if you're a contender. Are you buying in to this Dolphins offense and what Hill could be? What would you trade for him? Because this is the type of asset that you can make this move right now if your trade deadline is not passed. What is unequivocally here is he is getting the work. He is getting the high value usage. And we talked about once that shit starts to connect, when you're getting 8.2 type usage, it's going to flip and you're going to score a lot of fantasy points. Who's making the bet? Who's making the Tyreek Hill bet right now to make a move for a push for the playoffs? I think this is a bet, and I think this is a good one to make, and one that normally is not open, especially at this point in time in the year, considering what he did last season and how the Dolphins are underperforming this year. And speaking of underperformers, the Dallas Cowboys and their newly acquired wide receiver, Jonathan Mingo, who is already updated on the tool, and you'll see him pop up way back here. Where is he at? Where's Mingo at? There's Jalen. Oh, that's week 9. We got to go week 1 through 9, and let's get Mingo on here. Here he is. There he is. The newly acquired Jonathan Mingo is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th in the usage pecking order amongst pass catchers, and this is without with Dak Prescott, and we got to deal with Cooper Rush. Cowboys gave up a 4th for Jonathan Mingo. You look at CeeDee Lamb and where he's at on the season. 7.68 score, 18 fantasy points per game, dealing with an AC joint injury. I don't even know. What do you do? What do you do in Dallas? What do you do with CeeDee Lamb at this point? Knowing that they're not going to have Dak Prescott going on IR, he's going to miss 4 games. I'll tell you this, I've sent some offers out there in some leagues to move him, to try to get some help, to try to get some players to help me push in on some spots to win this year. I think Lamb could be fine with Cooper Rush. I think he could be fine, but man, it's just a situation that's rotten in Dallas. You know, weeks 8 and week 9, Lamb is getting it done for you. Incredible talent. Situation is rotten. The Cowboys season is in the dumps. We'll see what happens with CeeDee Lamb and that AC joint. I really do not know how to play that situation. Finally, Tampa Bay, Washington, the Jets, the Saints, man, just a lot of situations. Let's take a look at the Rams real quick. I don't think there's a lot to take away from Demarcus Robinson. I think he's a part of this offense. Is he going to do this every week? No, this happened because Puka Nacua threw a punch and he got ejected. You look at the entirety of the Rams season, you got 5 players over a 5 usage score. D-Rob, this is sort of what he did at the end of last year. Cooper Kupp wasn't there. He came in and he filled in a good complementary role for the Rams. If there were something to happen to Kupp or Puka Nacua, knock on wood, fingers crossed, we don't wish for that. Robinson, he might be one of the best high-value backup wide receivers in the NFL, especially when you've got the assassin Matthew Stafford who has full confidence in him. You're not going to get the weekly consistency out of Demarcus Robinson, but he wouldn't be a player, especially in best ball formats, that I wouldn't mind having right now, Demarcus Robinson. Green Bay Packers decided to use Jaden Reed down the field in week 9. I've been crying for them to do that for the past 4 weeks. I don't understand why they have not done that, but they finally did. Prioritized him down the field, and he responded with a almost 8 score and 16 fantasy points. He did that on 5 for like 111, no touchdowns in this matchup. We're here. It was Dobbs, and now it's Reed, Watson. Wicks was an afterthought. Jordan Love is going to spray the ball around to whomever. There is no primary. If you have to bet on one, the trend looks like it's going in Jaden Reed's direction right now. So those are some of the early thoughts and takeaways. Oh, big whiff last week. I've got to call it out. Keon Coleman, I know he got hurt, but prior to the hand injury or wrist injury, dropped I don't want to say wide open. It was a contested catch, but I do believe he would have scored a touchdown on the play, but he dropped it. Jalen Ramsey ends up picking it off, and just nasty for Keon Coleman. I would be remiss. Hold on, folks. What am I doing? I would be remiss if I did not bring up Quentin Johnston, who returned from injury. And I'll say this about QJ. Here's QJ for the season. This tool does not ding or hurt players for missed games. I just want to know, when you're on the field, what the hell is the team asking you to do? I'm not saying that he is their answer for the long-term future. Ladd McConkey would still be the priority for me. 7.26 score, 13 fantasy points per game. But QJ's improved. This is not the same wide receiver that we saw play last year. He's getting the downfield work. The long touchdown came in the second quarter, 8 minutes left in the second quarter. If he can do this and be their big play threat, if you're in on Jamison Williams, you like J-Mo and what he could become, you liked Will Fuller with Deshaun Watson, we might be looking at that caliber of player right here with Quentin Johnston. The Chargers, I've continued to talk about this privately in our Discord community. Highly encourage you check out the tool. Join the community, patreon.com/allgas or ddfantasyfootball.com. But I've continued to talk about this Justin Herbert being a buy. They're letting him throw the ball more. He's pushing it down the field, and he's connecting with some of his young playmakers. It might not be a full-fledged 2024 play, but going into 2025, I want some Justin Herbert, and I want pieces of this offense, which, yes, it does include Quentin Johnston. So QJ had to bring it up. Said Tillman, real deal. Said Tillman, real deal. Said Tillman, real deal. I mean, it's been 3 straight weeks. I trust it. I completely trust it. Rolled Said Tillman out there. It's been 3 straight weeks. Said Tillman, the real damn deal. All right. Early Trinity takeaways on a Tuesday for your head top. A lot going on this Tuesday. We got the presidential election, trade deadline. Most importantly, we got the Trinity on Tuesday. Appreciate each and every each and every year. If you found this information actionable and or entertaining, number 1, go sign up and use the tool yourself. Follow the dots, trust the Trinity. But drop your boy a like. Talk to me below. Let me know in the comments what wide receiver you've been most impressed by, which bet you're going to make for the rest of the season. And as always, you got to follow the dots and trust the Trinity. So thank you. Subscribe to the channel. Leave me feedback and stay locked into all the dope content that we have over here on the channel. I did drop a 2025 rookie mock draft on the channel. Make sure you check that out. 2 rounds, Superflex rookie mock draft. A lot of people upset. Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan, did not make the top 24 picks. I love Colston Loveland. It's tight end position outside of heavy tight end premium, and they just don't matter. But check out this Dynasty rookie mock draft. 2 rounds, Superflex, talking through 24 prospects. Thank you for pulling up. See y'all next time. I'm out. Peace.